Currently, China faces widespread grievances, with efforts to seek justice coming not only from ordinary citizens, but also from upper class and the wealthy. On November 17th, the 2024 Nanjing Marathon Series kicked off at the Nanjing Olympic Sports Center. A viral video showed a man dressed as Bao Gong, a historic Chinese judge renowned for fairness, running alongside participants while holding a blank piece of paper. Marathon runners repeatedly turned back to see what the paper said. Moments later, around 5 or 6 uniformed police officers rushed into the crowd, snatched the paper, and forcibly hauled the man away. Onlookers noted that the paper contained messages such as, "A marathon may have an end, but injustice lingers. Professor Wang Guang's 8 years of grievances remain unresolved," and "Jiangsu High Court, end the marathon-style review, reinvestigate Professor Wang Guang's case and clear his name." The man is identified as Professor Wang Guang of Nanjing University of Science and Technology. He later shared online that he had no choice but to resort to this method to bring attention to his case. He claims to have been falsely accused of embezzling 110,000 yuan 8 years ago. Despite evidence proving his innocence, Jiangsu's High Court has delayed addressing his appeal, which was supposed to conclude within 3 months but has dragged on. On November 18th, another viral video showed homeowners of a high-end apartment complex in Shanghai protesting on the streets, only to be met with police crackdowns, and many were dragged away. According to a video posted online, the protesting homeowners are reportedly billionaires. They were upset over repeated delays in the handover of their properties by the developer and collectively demanded refunds after years of unfulfilled promises. The broadcaster noted that each unit in the area that were purchased in 2021 cost between 20 and 30 million yuan each, with buyers possessing net worths of at least 100 million yuan. The homeowners stated that after repeated delays in receiving their homes, they finally moved in only to find there was no central heating, and they had to rely on temporary electricity, making daily life difficult. Despite multiple complaints to the authorities, their issues remain unresolved. On Monday morning, over 100 residents braved the rain to appeal to the government for help. After hours of waiting, no officials came forward, but a large group of police arrived instead. The residents shouted, "District Chief, come out," but no one addressed their concerns. One resident expressed that the police's violent response had shattered their trust in the government. Meanwhile, in the early hours of November 17, delivery workers protesting unpaid wages at a Yunda Express branch in Guangzhou also faced a police crackdown. The branch owner had reportedly fled recently, leaving behind unpaid wages amounting to 2.7 million yuan. On November 12th, the workers sought help from Yunda's headquarters, which initially promised to pay the outstanding wages. However, after making partial payments, the company refused to pay the remaining amount and assigned a new manager to take over the branch. On November 16th, the workers staged another protest at the Xiling branch, blocking package pickups. In response, local authorities deployed the police early the next day, forcibly dispersing the workers and detaining several of them. Footage showed a government official telling the workers that they weren't troublemakers and the government was there to help, but warned that if they caused trouble, action would be taken. These workers were merely trying to claim their rightful wages. After exhausting formal channels, they were left with no choice but to protest. Now they are labeled as troublemakers, an example of the unjust treatment under the Chinese Communist Party. Increasingly, Chinese citizens are openly criticizing authorities online, albeit indirectly or targeting specific departments only.
我不怕美国，也不怕日本。
I'm not afraid of the US or Japan, but I fear urban management officers when I set up a street stall and traffic police when I ride an electric bike. To us ordinary people, they are like demons, sharp knives stabbing our hearts, wounds that cannot heal. This video has garnered hundreds of thousands of likes on Chinese social media, with many people voicing their support saying, "He speaks for all of us." Another video talked about China's worsening economy, attributing the problems to poor management within the country rather than external factors. The person said China is at a dangerous point, with the economy in chaos even though it's supposed to be the backbone of development. He criticized leaders for making excuses and using quick fixes instead of solving real issues. He stressed that fixing problems means getting rid of corruption at all levels of government.
如果一个人不行，
If a person fails, no matter how many remedies exist, bad actors will ruin everything. leaving wounds, crises, and desperation. Only a complete overhaul from top to bottom can solve our problems. In recent years, China's economy has continued to decline, with skyrocketing local government debt, struggling industries, and rising family disputes due to economic pressures. Coupled with issues like judicial injustice under the Chinese Communist regime, cases of violent incidents have become frequent and fueling public discontent. Despite these domestic crises, CCP leader Xi Jinping announced massive financial commitments to so-called Global South countries during the G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. According to a report by Chinese media Xinhua on November 19, Xi unveiled an 8-point action plan at the summit. This includes an additional 780 billion yuan in financing for the Belt and Road Initiative, 360 billion yuan in financial support for Africa, and zero tariff treatment for all least developed countries with diplomatic ties to China. Furthermore, China pledged to import over $8 trillion worth of goods from these nations by 2030. Reuters reported that Beijing aims to use these measures to further expand its political and economic influence. On China's heavily censored Weibo platform, only a few pro-government comments were visible. However, on platforms like X, Chinese-speaking users criticized the CCP for prioritizing foreign aid over domestic issues, labeling it as, quote, international bribery, and questioning the benefits of zero tariffs and Belt and Road spending. They expressed frustration over China's economic struggles and accused the CCP of using foreign aid to distract from its internal crises. Some mocked that, if the CCP has so much money, why is the domestic economy in shambles? Amid censorship, some voices in China continue to express dissent. A content creator disagreed with the CCP's narrative of everyone has a duty to the nation's rise or fall.
You made the mess, you reaped the benefits, and you took the profits. But when it's time to take responsibility, you look to the common people. When you enjoy the perks, where's the common people's share? Look at these common people, unable to afford weddings, children, education, housing, or healthcare. Your game is too big for us to play. As one of these common people, I can't afford it. Stop dumping the bad onto us while keeping the good for yourselves.
Another vlogger indirectly criticized the government for focusing all its efforts on controlling ordinary citizens. He questioned why experts and corporations are actively encouraging people to take on loans. Jack Ma was right. They won't let you get a raise, save money, or speak the truth. They pour all their time and energy into oppressing us. But here's what I can't understand. Why are all these tech companies and platforms pushing loans, and why are experts and professors encouraging it? What's wrong with this world? Another person praised the United States for advancing technology to benefit humanity, while accusing the CCP of using AI to exploit ordinary people. The US focuses on exploring the universe, advancing AI, and developing technology. Meanwhile, we use AI to steal jobs, create predatory loan schemes, and exploit human weaknesses. The endgame is to bleed the people dry and take every last penny. Take Alibaba's Huabei and Jiebei loan services. They've ruined an entire generation of Chinese people. Today's youth are now the most indebted generation in 5,000 years of history, turning debt into a nationwide phenomenon. Young people no longer marry or have children. Before long, China might have no poor people left. Why? Because poverty doesn't last more than 3 generations. Another person used irony to criticize, saying he couldn't stand how Taiwan has so few corrupt officials, making it too hard to embezzle. He mocked that in China, officials only find it exciting if they embezzle in the billions. He explained that Taiwanese officials must publicly disclose their assets, and anti-corruption agencies regularly audit them. He said if their wealth doesn't match their income, any unaccounted-for assets are immediately deemed embezzled and they're arrested. Simple as that. An expert on Chinese affairs, Zhen Zhongyuan, noted that despite the CCP's strict online censorship, more individuals are daring to criticize. He suggested that this reflects a broader trend, driven by political repression and economic hardship, where people feel compelled to speak out to cope with psychological pressure. Zhang commented that the CCP tolerates some criticism as long as it doesn't directly target the party, but this doesn't change its authoritarian nature. He also warned that such dissent, even if indirect, could create an undercurrent of resistance. Should internal CCP politics destabilize, these frustrations could quickly escalate into a nationwide movement, catching the party off guard. He pointed out that major historical events often result from gradual changes with one sudden trigger. As the year comes to a close, China's society feels like a pressure cooker. The tension between rapid economic development and worsening social contradictions has led to numerous tragedies. Recent violent incidents have occurred in many cities across China, even big metros like Shanghai. High housing prices, job scarcity, social inequity, and systemic pressures are overwhelming the population, especially the younger generation. Many people are left with little choice but to give up or, in some cases, lash out violently, reflecting a deep psychological divide. For example, on November 16, a 21-year-old in Wuxi, frustrated by failed exams and dissatisfaction with his internship pay, attacked a vocational college, resulting in 35 deaths and 43 injuries. Similarly, on November 11th in Zhuhai, a 62-year-old man, angry over a divorce settlement, drove an SUV into a crowd, killing 8 and injuring 17. Official reports fail to mention his prior legal appeals regarding the settlement. After the Zhuhai attack, Xi Jinping ordered stricter risk management and conflict resolution to prevent further extreme cases. This prompted nationwide crackdowns on unstable elements and potential threats, with Beijing emphasizing the need to safeguard the capital. Critics argue that such actions are politically motivated, showing concern for control rather than the well-being of ordinary people. Chinese people mockingly remark that while authorities often ignore citizens' struggles, they show sudden interest when there's a chance to profit or serve political goals.
你知道吗？网上现在流传的这样一段话。
Did you know, a message circulating online goes, I lost my job and no one cared. I fell ill but couldn't afford treatment and no one cared. I became unemployed with no income and no one cared. Homeless and adrift, no one cared. I worked hard for my boss, only for them to disappear, leaving my efforts in vain. No one cared. I spent all my savings on a house, only for it to remain unfinished and no one cared. Life was tough and my wallet empty, still no one cared. But when I finally scraped together enough to buy a second-hand electric car, suddenly everyone cared about my safety. Chinese-Canadian author Sheng Shui highlighted the deep social injustices in China, describing a society dominated by unchecked power, pervasive exploitation, and the absence of fairness. She noted that many Chinese people lack social support or access to justice, leaving many in a state of despair. In recent months, Chinese scholars have expressed concerns about the country's social direction, though their writings were swiftly censored. The Dean of School of Foreign Languages at Fudan University, Chu Wei-guo, advocated for public systems to oversee and reveal abuses of power as a way to curb violent incidents. A prominent professor at East China Normal University, Xu Jinlin, cautioned that society is under extreme pressure and highlighted the importance of providing legitimate outlets for grievances to prevent suppressed anger from turning into violence. A law professor at Sichuan University, Han Shu, emphasized the critical role of an impartial judiciary as a last line of defense for social fairness and justice, offering hope and stability. However, his article was swiftly removed from online platforms. Founder of China Labor Watch, Li Cheng, stated that China needs genuine religious freedom as grassroots faith offers comfort that communism and the CCP cannot provide. Political commentator Li Linyi criticized the CCP for destroying traditional Chinese culture through political campaigns, leaving behind a hollow version devoid of genuine spiritual belief. He pointed out that the persecution of groups such as Falun Gong practitioners, whose principles of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance benefit society but have faced brutal suppression since 1999. Li argued that societal chaos and rising resentment will persist until the CCP falls and traditional faith is restored, allowing for meaningful cultural and social recovery.